Good evening, everybody. This is the regularly scheduled meeting of the South Haven City Council. It is Wednesday, July the 5th, 2023, and I will call this meeting to order. We have nobody for an invocation, so if everyone would just join me for a moment of silence, please. Thank you. And now if you'll join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, roll call. Megan.
Jeff Arnold.
Here.
Wendy Onuki. Here. Joe Reeser.
Here.
Steve Schlack. George Sleeper.
Here.
Letitia Wilkins.
Here.
Scott Smith.
Here.
I'll make a motion to excuse Steve Slock.
Second.
Motion is second to excuse Mr. Schlock. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. He's excused. That takes us to the approval of the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion is second to approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. It is approved. Next, public comment for items which are on the agenda, excluding items scheduled for public hearing, which really there's only one major item. But if you have any questions or comments about our special events, I will take those now. So, good evening.
Mary Hasley, 726 North Shore Drive. I actually have a request for Mr. Bill Hunter. I had made the request last time he gave an update. If he could please provide an update on the beach safety attendants, if all the positions have been filled, the status of that, and how many are working per shift and how that is working out. I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Anybody else? No, going once, going twice. Okay, perfect. That takes us to the consent agenda, items A through I.
Make a motion to approve consent agenda items A through I.
Second.
Motion is second to approve those items. Any questions, comments? If not, this is a roll call.
Arnold.
Yes.
Onuki.
Yes.
Reeser.
Yes.
Sleeper.
Yes.
Wilkins.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes. Takes us to old business. City Council will be asked to take the following actions to amend the zoning ordinance to regulate the height of buildings in numerical feet only, instead of also regulating the number of stories in each building. So first, we're going to call a public hearing.
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
Motion second to open a public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. It is open. And Griffin, are you going to kick this off?
I'm happy to. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
As discussed a couple weeks ago, as currently written, the city's zoning ordinance regulates the heights of buildings through two different mechanisms. One is limitations to height in numerical feet, and two is limitations on height in terms of number of stories within a building. Following some discussion with City Council, the City Council approved a motion directing the Planning Commission to consider an ordinance that would regulate building height with respect to numerical feet only, eliminating the separate regulation for stories. At the City Council's discretion, the Planning Commission studied this topic over several months, and after considering a variety of options and drafts, the Planning Commission recommended the proposed amendment that's before you this evening. Staff believes that this recommendation is consistent with City Council's directive from July 2022, and that it would eliminate confusion and nonconformities relating to the story regulations in the current version of the zoning ordinance, as well as changes to measuring from natural grade would help to mitigate the practice of adding fill to building sites prior to construction. Happy to answer any questions once you all have heard from the public.
Sounds good. So this is a public hearing. If you'd like to share thoughts, comments with us, we'd love to hear from you. If you'd like to come on up, state your name and address. You'll have up to 5 minutes. Good evening, Dan.
Good evening. Dan Agnello, 964 Everett Parkway. I'm just going to be brief here on the height issue. I've talked about this many times. There's houses by me that are 39 feet high, and there's one that was built on the corner of Elkenberg and St. Joe that's 35 feet high. Now, this ordinance, there was a problem when they wrote the ordinance back in 2015, when it was transcribed, that the stories was not put in there correctly. And the fact that, for some reason, they can't interpret what a story is, I don't understand that. Okay, it's either 35 feet, 2.5 stories, or it's 25 feet and 2 stories, whatever it comes out to be. A story is a story. Give an example. The Central Business District, what's the ordinance? 45 feet and 3.5 stories. So if the Central Business District can have stories, why can't the houses in residential areas? Because there was a meeting there where Fifth Third Bank wanted to build 4 stories and 55 or 60 feet building, and it got turned down. They went to ZBA and they said no. The Central Business District ordinance says 45 feet, 3.5 stories. It should be the same way on residential areas. Story is a story. Come on, if they would have had that, we would have had 2.5 story buildings that are maybe 30 feet high instead of three of them on Elkinburg right now are 39. I'm sure the fourth one's going to be 39 feet. And the one on the other corner is 35. Now, you tell me how that can be in character of the neighborhoods. I've told you several times, the tallest building in Trailside is 26 feet. How does that compare with 39 feet? The word character, I hate to say it, but the word character, as far as I'm concerned, doesn't mean anything to the people in the city or staff, because character doesn't mean anything. Like when they're trying to build these bigger houses, it says right in the form that the builder signs, I will maintain the character of the neighborhood for the health and welfare of the citizens or residents. What they do, they go ahead and they sign that form, then they go ahead and build 39-foot houses. I mean, come on, let's do something for the residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else?
Mary Hasley, 726 North Shore Drive. First, just going on record that I sent a communication on July 1st with public comments that I would like incorporated into the record. Most importantly, I have to echo Dan's concerns. As I said, if you truly care about the character of our community, you will not approve this proposal for 35 feet only. We have always had a story requirement. The amendment in 2015 changed the height and the stories to keep and maintain the character. As the chair of the Planning Commission said, and this is the I is him, I've stated this many times that the original ordinance was quite clear and the stories are an important part of that. Without that, you get skyscrapers as they become known by the residents in the community because they are not characteristic of our neighborhood. They are characteristic of gigantic homes that are not amenable to our residents. They increase the price point because they're larger. They have a large number of bedrooms and bathrooms. Our families are decreasing in size. We've heard that time and time again. How does this lack of keeping the character of our neighborhoods with the proposal meet your priorities of helping the residents have price point homes that they can afford? Allowing 35 feet without a story requirement shoots that priority in the foot. You are lame if you approve this. Moreover, yes, this has been in front of the Planning Commission for quite some time since the typographical error was discovered. However, as I pointed out in that email to you with minutes from the Planning Commission, it has not been discussed extensively by the Planning Commission. Options for different feet level have been discussed. There has never, ever been a discussion about combining feet and stories and maintaining what was approved in 2015. That was never for consideration. That was never presented by the staff. The directive was to look, should we do just feet? Can we do just feet? This is Overton all over again. You lost, in the weeds, you've lost the path. The path is to protect our neighborhoods, protect the character of our neighborhoods, have homes that are characteristic of our neighborhood and in the price range that allows our working families to live here, families that have a few children, They don't need 5, 7 bedrooms and the same number of bathrooms. It's the elephant in the room. These are not for residents. In fact, most of these taller ones have business STR applications pending and have gotten a personal STR in its place. Please show leadership, allow our community to remain residential, welcoming our residents back to the community, and providing homes that they can afford, because the larger homes, the taller homes with 3 stories are not those homes. And height does matter. It's not just height, or I should say height alone is not sufficient. It's deficient, and it's not going to protect the character, and not allowing this to have a 2-pronged evaluation does not maintain our character. And there's been allegations that it's confusing. We don't know what a story is, but with how long this has taken, there have been ample approvals of drawings, of architecture. Staff have proven they can do it. They can do story and feet. We don't need to have feet only. We need both of them to preserve the character and welcoming of families to our community. Please do a reverse of what you thought you needed. Please consider retaining the original ordinance. Don't lose focus like happened in Overton. Please listen to your residents and maintain our character, and send this back to the Planning Commission to consider feet and stories. That was not considered. It doesn't matter how long it was there. You saw by the minutes that it was, every time that was voted, the vote was split. This is a very close call, and to ram it through now is not appropriate to mend our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Was there anybody else?
Made it just in time. Lisa Beck, 879 Monroe Boulevard. I do think that the stories matter. I think that height alone doesn't send the message that we've been talking about at all these meetings about affordable or workforce housing. I think that just the height alone doesn't do that. I think the number of stories does make it more apt to be a rental and more apt for more people to be in one house. So we've been talking with the short-term rentals about, too many people in one house and too many cars. I don't know anything about parking, but I do know that when you have 3 levels, I had a 2-flat and it was very commercial oriented. When I had a single family dwelling, it was not. People cared about it, and this was year-round rentals I'm talking about. So I think it is important, and I think it's important to preserve the neighborhood appeal and look for it. As I've spoken many times before, I'm very much for workforce housing. That's what we talked about with Overton, and I'm very much for doing that on Overton. But I think that if you have a bunch of 3-story buildings, it is going to send a different message to the community. Thanks.
Thank you. Good evening.
Elaine Herbert, 404 North Shore Drive. I wasn't going to say anything on this issue till the last speaker spoke about parking issues. It's hard to follow Mary Hosley because she covers all the issues so beautifully. But here's the deal. Business STRs are supposedly used up, even though they're still giving them out, but they're supposedly used up. So we're going to start building 3-story houses in our neighborhoods. I hope you're aware that the uptick in personal STRs, which they're now applying for and getting because there's no cap on those, personal STRs don't have any parking requirement at all. They don't even have to have parking on these houses. So they can build them like crazy. So don't do this. This was a mistake. This was a badly transcribed ordinance. It needs to go back to what the community always had, the same amount of feet and 2 stories. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second it.
Motion is second to close the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
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 No, we are closed. All right, next, I can read this through, and if we'll see where it goes. How's that sound? We'll see if we, we're going to be asked to consider the adoption of an ordinance to amend sections 201.7, 201.8, 405, 408, 503, 604, 704, 804, 904, 1004, 1004, 1208, 1307, 1708, and 1732, and repeal Figure 2-3 of the City of South Haven zoning ordinance to regulate height through measurement of numerical feet only.
I make a motion to adopt the ordinance to amend the sections as read by the mayor.
Got one. Going to.
Can I make a comment?
You're allowed, but I'm looking for a second right now, or if not, this will end here, and then we'll go back to the drawing board.
Okay. Last time we had a city council meeting, one of the council people said 35 foot is 35 foot. It's hard to dispute. 35 foot is 35 foot. But there's a lot of differences how a home can be constructed in 35 foot. First of all, according to Ryan Kilpatrick, the size of families are shrinking. He said more than 50% of all families have 2 adults or 1 adult with no children. That's over 50%. He also talked about the need for affordable housing. That's one of our priorities at City Council. And yet, not having stories, not having the number of floors in a home in this regulation would open up the door to 3 floors. Why would anyone want to build a larger home if the size of families are shrinking? Second thing dealing with that is the fact that besides shrinking families, we need affordability. The larger we build a home, put another floor in it, make it a 3-floor, now the house goes up even higher. And now that even takes less affordability from the community. And that's not even getting into how it looks. So an hour before I got here, I went on Indiana Street near Councilwoman Letitia's home and spoke to a couple. And they talked about the character of the community. Interestingly enough, these are people that own a short-term rental. They rent it out occasionally. And even they're concerned about the looks of it. And then we talked about houses very close by within blocks that are 3 stories, and they were appalled by the looks of it. And now let's talk. Someone said, I think Mary, about the elephant in the house, or the elephant in the room. There is an elephant in the room. That's short-term rentals. There's no getting around it. Nobody takes a home and puts a 3rd floor on it, adds more bedrooms because they have a large family. That would be unusual based on what Ryan Kilpatrick said. They are building a house to be a short-term rental so they can get more bedrooms, more people in it, and now we've just increased the likelihood of another short-term rental. And that is the reality of it. So if we truly want to take one of our priorities, have affordability, keep the character of the community, then let's put the stories in it. Let's make it 2 stories, keep the 35 foot, 35 foot's 35 foot, but make it 2 stories. That's what the residents want. Everyone I've spoken to had to be over 30 people in the last week, and they've all said the same thing. I don't see any reason not to have it. It's not that complicated to keep it to 2 stories. Thanks.
Got it. I've got no seconds at this point in time. Anybody else want to make any comments? Otherwise, this will stay where it's at.
I'd like to
go
make
ahead.
a comment. So the reason why I'm in favor of this ordinance, the way it is written, are as follows. First, it reduces the number of legally non-conforming properties. There are property owners who built their property under a less restrictive version of the ordinance than what is in place now, and without this change, their properties are legally non-conforming, which means under certain circumstances, they could be required to be brought into conformance. That is the goal of making something legally non-conforming, is to bring it eventually into conformance. Now, Now, recently, the Planning Commission reviewed a preliminary site plan for a development along the river. Because of its proximity to the river, they couldn't have a basement, and due to the small footprint of each dwelling unit being proposed, they proposed 3 stories. And these dwelling units were just under 30 feet tall. So it doesn't necessarily mean that having 3 stories means, you know, we look at everything sometimes from the lens of short-term rental. It doesn't necessarily mean that. And I think having the added flexibility is one way to improve affordability of housing. This change will also simplify our ordinances. This will make it easier for property owners to meet the requirements. This is also one of our goals, in that simplified ordinances can promote housing.
Okay, well said. Was there anybody else that wants to make a comment? Let's check with everybody else first.
My comment, I personally feel that this is a good ordinance. For the reasons that George mentioned, and if Steve were here, I think Steve would say what I also feel. The conservative in me thinks that someone, if they have the means and they want to add it into their house and they want to make it bigger, to have grandkids over, to have family over, they should be entitled to do what they can with their house if they have the means. I've seen it happen several times in Ward 2. That's my personal thought. But having heard from some of my constituents, they've encouraged me to vote no. So I'm not supporting this motion today because I've just heard from my voters. And then I'm also concerned about the conflicts that were in the Planning Commission, that kind of a split vote from the Planning Commission. A more unanimous vote would have made me feel better about this piece of this proposal.
Agreed. Chairman?
I will not be supporting this proposal for all the reasons that have already been stated. I don't think I need to restate them.
Sounds good.
I am in the same boat. I've actually never been a fan of taking away the number of stories because I do worry about the character of the neighborhoods being changed. So I prefer to keep it as is for all the reasons that were mentioned today, both on the council and from our audience.
Do you have something else to?
The only thing I would add is, for me, the driving force on this is not short-term rentals, even though clearly it is a piece of it. But to go contrary to the consultant that we just paid a lot of money to, and will continue to pay him, to tell us that that households are getting smaller, that we need affordability in this community, and then to turn around and prove the ability for a contractor to come in and build a larger home is contrary to everything we're trying to do. Why would we do it? So take short-term rentals off the plate. Just talk about the other issues. I don't see that we're doing it, and it's one of our priorities to talk about and try to create affordable housing. And putting a 3-floor home in a community that has no other 3-story homes is not in line with the community, but it's not in line with the trend in this country or in this city. And for one time, we have to stand up and do what the residents want and shrink these homes and put them in line with what people want to buy. Young people, according to everything I've read, just recently in Time Magazine, young people want smaller homes, not bigger homes. So why would we want to allow 3 stories, even though it's 35 feet? Thanks.
Yeah, and we got to remember, I can go a couple different ways on this, because again, it's, of course we want to, I mean, this doesn't change affordability, it doesn't. Really, we're talking about 2 versus 3. We also looked into Ryan Kilpatrick, he'll tell you need more density, you need taller, you need more in the smaller spaces to make it more affordable. So we can move this a few different ways. Clearly, we need to increase the ease and decrease the confusion with the building process. I agree 100%. So I don't, that we need to, for PC, however they do this. When we originally, I was on a council, we did a version prior to this one being repealed, and it had 2.5 stories. So it had 2, you could have a walkout basement. I live in one of those houses. I would not want to see us lose the ability to have the concept of a walkout basement. For me, our house is built by a family, for a family, with children who went to school, lived here, 2 of us, a teacher, me, kids all went to school. We did that. That's how we built the house. So it's 2.5 theoretically, because it's got a grade. So for me, I don't have a problem with how we originally did it. I know there was a change. So how we get back to that, I don't want to lose the half. I guess that's part of my biggest state would be. I mean, because again, I think Steve said it well. 35-foot house could be you could have a, one story, 35 foot. It's, if the height's the concern, we're not going to solve that. If 3 stories is concerned, and I don't disagree with that. I feel like some of the kind of the purpose-built 3-story it's not in character. So for me, character, no doubt about it, the 3s don't look in character with the rest. I mean, I think some can be built to look more in character. You can have a 2.5 be in character. So I think we've got to get back to that. I mean, we've been having a lot of fun having this discussion. If you think back in time, we went through a period in time when I grew up, the ranch was what everybody had. And then they made the splanch. And then it was the split level ranch. I heard that on HGTV, right? What? We had a ranch, right? That was what most, when I grew up, everyone had a ranch. And then there was the splanch, and they were kind of cool, a few people. And then there was the 2-level homes were kind of, like that was like the nicer home all of a sudden. Like, that was the other side, right? So who's to say 2 is the end? I don't know. But do I think that the 3s right now are in keeping? I do not. But I would like to make sure we still keep the concept of 2.5. So I guess maybe we revisit what was originally on the books before it was changed out. That would be my only comment going forward. So on that note, we don't have a second, so that will fall off to the abyss for now. That takes us to new business. Our city council will be asked to consider the approval of the following special event applications. I'll take these together. We can discuss them. Special event 2023-29, which is the Alvan Humane Society Barbecue 2023, to be held on August 11, 2023, from 4 till 8 at the Huron Street Pavilion. Secondly, special event 2023-28, which is the Wave Regatta 2024, to be held on August the 13th, 2024. Setup begins on August the 12th on the South Beach.
Make a motion to approve special event 2023-29 and special event 2023-28 as read by the mayor.
Second?
We got a motion, we got a second. I know about one of them, not the other one. Tell. Anything you want to share with us?
Sure. So the Alvan Humane Society will be coming back to the Blueberry Festival. So they'll be doing their barbecue, which is a fundraiser for Alvan. This will be from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. on August 11th. So that's a pretty similar event that they've had coming back each year. The Wave Regatta 100, that is something new. We have the Hobie Class Association North America has contacted our office and are looking to do a wave regatta, so basically a 3-leg trip or 2-leg trip going down to Michigan City. So South Haven would be the first, or the kickoff location. This would be August of 2024, right after the Blueberry Festival. They're looking at, if you're not familiar with a Hobie Cat, they're a very small boat. I want to say 15 feet or less. And they would be sailing down to, I think, St. Joe, and then from St. Joe to New Buffalo, then New Buffalo to Michigan City. So it's a 2 or 3 legs, and then they're looking to come in, take off from the beach. So what we would do is section off areas of the beach and have them take off. They should be cleared from the beach, I think, on that Tuesday morning, on that Monday morning. And then once they're gone, I think by 10 or 10:30, then the beach would resume operations.
Sounds good. Sounds interesting.
I thought I saw in the application they're going to take up some parking, but they're going to pay for the parking.
They are going to pay for the parking. That's pretty much our what we like to do with the beaches is you do pay for the parking, but again, they're not looking for many spaces. Their plan is to just drop off the boats, and then they do have some staff or their team or their crew members that would take the boat down to the next place. So they'll be dropping off and then running that trailer down to the next location, which should be St. Joseph.
Good question. Anybody else have questions? If not,
Well, I can remember when we used to have Hobie Cat regattas on the South Beach, and it was really neat to stand up on the bluff and look down and see all these colorful sails out there.
Yeah, it was very exciting for them to reach out and try this. So we've been working with them, and this is what we've come up with.
yeah, very cool. All right, if there's nothing else, we've got a motion, we've got a second to approve special events 2023-28 and 2023-29. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. They are approved. And next, we're going to get an update from our Public Works Director, Mr. Bill Hunter, who's recovering from a busy couple days. Thank you very much to you and your staff as you come up.
Your Honor, City Council, here's an update on projects within the city. The new substation is currently underway. It's really constructed. We're actually just waiting for the energizing date of September 19th. AMI project, we did get informed actually from the contractor, they'll be mobilized in August of 2023. However, I don't think that's going to be possible the way the meters are coming in unless something substantially changes by then. I do expect that to be a spring project of 2024. Air handling units, the main unit is up and running, actually only as of a little bit ago.
4 o'clock today.
4 o'clock today. The other unit should be operational tomorrow. Cost of service study, we just recently of last week got everything into UFS, and we're waiting to hear back from the cost of service study for the electric. Kids Corner Phase 2, a Spark grant was submitted for the playground structures and the alternate bid, as well as the we go round in the base plan area, so that was submitted. The DPW locker room renovation, staffers were preparing an update to City Council regarding the project pricing. The wastewater treatment plant project, bids were open June 27th, and a special meeting was held this evening at 4 o'clock. The SHASA board did approve a tentative contract, and we're moving forward with that project. However, that project was actually based on a cost of $7.3 million. We did actually add another 30% onto that, thinking projects would come in higher. Came in a lot higher, 14.3. So all projects are coming in very high. For example, we had another project. It was a repair of a sewer line, and it was estimated at 1.2. Low bid came 4.1. So this is not. I dare say, I don't like the term, but this might be the new norm. So I'm going to have to look at projects we have and have to make some drastic cuts, or some reshuffling of projects. SHASA water reliability study and AMP, we're still waiting for that to get back from our consultant. SHASA Drinking Water State Revolving Fund, we did apply for that, so that is underway. That's for actually the replacement of the concrete standpipe as well as transmission mains. And we did raise that one up, but again, when the project does come in, that one there, it's nothing you can cut. The wastewater plant, you can adjust certain things, you can just not do this. To eliminate the concrete standpipe, it's all or nothing. You can't just do one thing. You have to eliminate it, you have to put this main in, this pump station, install this. So it's so we'll just see how that goes. Street resurfacing project, it has in here that it's supposed to be completed by June, but it actually is July. And the water service replacement, Compton has that contract, and that's through the state of Michigan, our requirement of actually replacing lead service lines. That will be ongoing. You'll actually get it notified, a door hanger and a letter, and then we work with those property owners. So I'm here to answer any questions City Council may have of any of these projects.
I have a couple questions.
Sure.
Do you know when you'll hear back about the Spark grant for Kids Corner?
Probably, I'm thinking sometime in October,
Okay.
probably.
I forgot one of my questions, but I have a question for you that's not about one of these projects.
Okay, go ahead.
If it's okay. It came up recently, people were just talking about the intersection of Center and kind of past the post office. I'm drawing a blank right now.
Superior?
By Maria's.
Okay, over here.
Huron, thank you. And how it just seems to confuse people with the stop signs where they are. Like, people seem to think it's intuitively like a four-way stop, or that the wrong
Okay.
cross traffic does or doesn't have a stop sign. Have you heard anybody mention that to you before?
No.
Okay.
No.
It just seemed like a lot of residents kind of have pinpointed that as a trouble intersection.
A trouble meaning that they want it to be a four-way?
That's what I gathered from that conversation, but I know from my own experience, I always like almost stop when I go because I don't trust that the other people are gonna know that they have to stop, or vice versa. But I'm just wondering, I was wondering if that was on your radar at all.
It's not on my radar, but in the close proximity of a light, you might actually, I mean, just off the top of my head, but you might actually, to install a four-way, might actually create a stacking problem for people coming and taking and going through. Because you could have a long line stacked there, waiting for the cars to go, because now you got to wait for all these people, the round robin, and if it could actually create a point of congestion, actually inadvertently perhaps, at center, I would suggest if we look at something like that, I wouldn't arbitrarily put one in, I would actually suggest
Like
a
a
traffic
study? Okay.
study done
Okay,
for the justification of that.
okay. I
That's gonna
just-
be involved in actually counting turning motions and seeing if actually, are you gonna create a problem, or what's your level of service for that, so. But
Okay.
no, it's not been brought to my attention, no.
Okay,
Check an accident reports you've had. How many accidents have occurred,
Yep.
if any?
yeah, that would be interesting.
I mean, I can, but if, still goes back to if we're going to do it, I would recommend a full traffic study. It's just because it's, I hate throwing something in and then all of a sudden, well, we take it out. It looks kind of, you know.
Yeah,
Well, there's a stop sign the block before, too. There's a four-way that's blocked before, too.
Yeah, there's a
You got
four-way at Michigan.
Four-way,
Yes.
you'd have four-way, and then a
Traffic light.
T and then light, yeah.
So you would be going almost less than a block
Yeah.
to get to the next stop sign. It'd be interesting.
yeah. I just don't know, like, if there's anybody who could even just like visually check it out at some point and see how traffic navigates that.
I mean, we can, but again, I would go back to, I would recommend a full,
Okay.
I've been through that hundreds of times, and yes, going through it, it seems like, and I think a lot of it is people's hesitation thinking there should be one there,
Right.
but I'd hate to put one in and then create a problem.
Right.
Without actually looking at the full corridor.
Yeah.
I see your
That makes
point, and I
sense.
get it. And I do see that, but if we're going to do it, I'd say we do it right and actually have a study done.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, Joe.
Question, since we're talking about traffic, and I've noticed in the last couple years, we've put those pedestrian crossing signs up on the street, like there's one down by Blue Star Highway, by the Blue Stairs on Monroe Boulevard, and then go north on Monroe Boulevard, right there at St. Basil's, right before you start St. Basil's property, you put one right there. They seem to work. I've talked to residents, and they seem to think people slow down, or they stop completely when you're crossing, and it's very safe. So I've had several residents tell me on Indiana Street that people speed from Elkinburg all the way down, I think it's all the way down to Monroe Street. There's no stop signs. And it just so happens, last night I was talking to Letitia, and as I was talking to her, she said, "Oh my gosh, someone just went speeding down Indiana again." And I've talked to a few other residents, including an hour and a half ago, when I was talking about Roof Heights, we saw a couple people speeding, and the resident there said, this happens all the time. So, long way to get to my question. Do they slow people down, besides stopping for crossing? Do people slow down a little? Because it looks like a stop sign in the middle of the street.
If you
And do
start,
we have the ability to do it without having to go through all the technical steps with the state or whatever?
we have a policy that we put together internally with staff to designate actually, and it came out a couple of years ago when we started using them in one area. If you look at the Michigan Manual for Uniform Traffic Code and Devices, it just says you need to come up with a policy. That's all it says. It's not a required device. So you put there in there, and we actually just designated where was what we believed was the densest of pedestrian crossing traffic. It had nothing to do with slowing cars down. It had to do to just call out those pedestrian crossings to make them safer. And again, I stress, they are not for traffic calming or to slowing traffic down. It's just a call. So what we did is we designated where there's a lot of use. For example, Kids Corner, the downtown, South Beach, North Beach. And we just designated the area and said, within these, we're going to designate crosswalks, and those are the ones we're going to keep. Now, if we start going outside of that, then I would dare say, now to answer your question, again, I want to reiterate, these are not traffic calming or to slow traffic down. These are to enhance the safety of just the crosswalk themselves for the pedestrians.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
I mean, it gives a lot of people a lot of warm and fuzzy. Am I an advocate for them? I think they're good. I think they are. I think sometimes because they're so movable, I wish actually we lived in a climate where we didn't have snow and we could put something more permanent in there. But us being in Michigan, we got to put these portable ones up and they move sometimes. I don't like how they get right within the crosswalk. And we've had some just, I think our first initial ones we put out in North Shore, 2 of them came up just missing because they are portable. But to answer your question, no, they're not for traffic calming. It's just to enhance that crosswalk for the pedestrian safety. And we do have designated areas that we put out. And that's what I
could you
respond back
do
to
that?
people when they come and say, well, I want one in this area, which is further down south. In the city, I said, well, I'm sorry, this is where we believe. Some cities actually require a full traffic study, and on a request of a citizen, I've seen only a couple municipalities do that. They require them to pay for a study for them to come in and see if it justifies that. I'm not saying we're doing that, but there really isn't nothing set within the manual on that, only that we have to come up with a policy. And that's what we did just to keep those out that we have right now.
Then could you look at, and I don't know what the procedure is, a stop sign, take Elkinburg all the way down to, I think it's Monroe Street. There's no stop signs, and that's where it becomes a raceway all the way down. Could we look at putting a stop sign somewhere in the middle there? And is that hard to do? And if you want to discuss this later, that's fine.
No, we can discuss it now. Now, stop signs, again, we have to do like what's called a warrant analysis on them. Stop signs are not supposed to be used to slow traffic down. There's a lot of studies that show that people will actually speed up. If the stop sign's not warranted, people will speed up in between the signs, and actually, you could actually exacerbate the problem between the signs. What I would suggest first, what we do is do a speed survey. I get a box out, and we start saying, is there a real problem first? We set our box out, we start measuring it. Now, I know even down my road, for example, someone will speed by, but it might be 1 or 2 cars. And what we do is we measure it for a full week. And is it just 1 or 2 cars? Is it a certain part of the day? Is a majority of the time, it's not an issue. But that's what I would start off with first, and then we look at those intersections and see if they actually warrant
Thanks.
Bill, I have one for you too. Going back to pedestrians, at Superior and Broadway, where the light used to be that MDOT took down, when that first came down, lots of people in Ward 2 were upset and, crossing the street treacherous. And just recently, I've been getting a wave of comments again, people, were crossing through there. So if you can, some pedestrian call-outs, if you could take a look when you have time. I know you got a full plate, but.
No, I can do that. Actually, I can start, originally when we did just a kind of, a few years back when we did the lane diet, we did call out actually to have those, and MDOT didn't approve them, because they said officially they weren't in the Michigan manual, even though they're in the national manual. You got 2 different manuals, and for some reason, it takes Michigan about 4 years to approve the national manual before it comes up. So I can bring it back up to them and see maybe if it's been approved with the Michigan manual.
And I noticed that down by Strength Haven, the signs are improved, and so even maybe just some of those new signs will help.
Okay,
So, yep.
we'll look into
Well, if
that.
you ask out Broadway, you might as well check on Phoenix, because
Yeah,
we had asked for that one as well by the football field there. If they're feeling gracious, maybe they would grant us one over there too,
Okay,
just trying.
I can bring it up again, see what we get from them, yeah.
Just, again, thank you to your staff, prior, during, and then after, crack it on, day after, it's cleaned up and pristine, ready to go, so I thank them, despite having to work around a little pile of dirt pumping in on the south side, which is amazing. And this is more of a silly thing, but so we have a few bonus social distancing signs, and maybe we could donate those to Hash, just, put them away, and, I see them and I get, just reminders of what happened a couple years ago, so.
Okay.
That was one by the drawbridge, so. There are a couple floating around, not that it matters, unless they're keeping them for anything other than Hash, just, remove them, so there you go. Thank you again, appreciate everything that you do.
Hey, Bill,
Oh, sorry.
do you have an update on the beach safety attendants, or?
Yes, I can do that for you. We have 6 employees right now, full-time. They work, actually, we have 2 shifts that go. Shift goes from 8 to 3, that's one shift, and then another one goes 3 to 10. We'll have anywhere, 1 on each shift, or 2, 1 to 2, depending on availability. We do have one more person that's going through, an employee that's going through, a potential employee that's going through their checks, so we could be up to 7. We'd like to get 8, but every time we seem to get where we have 7, all of a sudden one's dropping off. It's been a really challenge, actually, to get staff on board, so, but yeah, that's where we're at right now.
Thank you.
Nothing else? All right, thanks, Bill. All right, next, public comments, and this is a chance for citizens in the audience to speak on items that are not on the agenda. So if you'd like to speak on something not on the agenda, you have up to 5 minutes. Come on up, state your name and address. Good evening, Paul.
Hello, good evening. Paul Vandenbosch, 757 Superior. I'm running for Second Ward City Council, and my vision for South Haven is as a highly desirable lakefront residential community. My focus is going to be to make South Haven a great place to live, and that as first priority. In the past, we've had an economic development strategy which prioritizes seasonal business. This strategy has had a number of negative impacts, in particular, a lack of activity during the off-season. An economic development strategy which results in a loss of population is a self-destructive strategy, even if some people are profiting from it. Our biggest problem is the negative impact of short-term rentals. These impacts are most obvious in the off-season. These impacts are felt by year-round employers, year-round residents, and year-round service providers. Currently, the city has permitted over 700 short-term rentals, and there is no upper limit in place. If we had limited short-term rentals in residential neighborhoods 6 years ago, it would have resulted in a great deal of investment in the lodging industry to meet the demand. This would have helped to improve our commercial districts. We would have had a local residential community and a thriving tourism industry. South Haven would have been more attractive as a city with history, character, and community, rather than the current situation where it is operated as a tourist camp. My goal in City Council will be to reduce the number of short-term rentals in residential neighborhoods. We will use established legal precedent and best practices by other cities to protect our residential neighborhoods. I propose to allow short-term rentals in commercial districts while discouraging operation of short-term rentals in single-family neighborhoods. I support the city's efforts to create affordable housing. I will prioritize enforcement on loud vehicles and aggressive drivers. And my goal as city council member will be to give the city's residents a voice and to make sure city government treats residents in a respectful manner. This is what I stand for. Those are my goals for the city of South Haven as a candidate for city council in Ward 2. So if you have gotten this letter today, please vote for Paul Vandenbosch. Also, if you want to see the city of South Haven become a great place to live, the team of people that you should be voting for, Joe Reeser for mayor, Letitia Wilkins, 1st Ward, and Mary Hosley, 3rd Ward, and me for 2nd Ward. Thank you.
Three comments. Is there somebody else? Good evening.
Lisa Beck, 879 Monroe Boulevard. I want to talk about Overton, and I know that's kind of elephant in the room always, but There seems to be some confusion on what some of the residents stand for. We've heard a lot of stuff about a small group of residents are against affordable housing and this type of stuff. There's been confusion in newspaper, there's been confusion I've heard from a couple council people. So I can only speak for myself technically, but I do know that I represent the views of several people that I know. And I'd like to, for the record, make it clear on what I personally stand for and what I'm against in that connotation. One of the things that I'm against is impartial cleanup of a very toxic site. I think that it should be complete cleanup. It should not put the residents, neighbors in danger. And I think that if it's done partially at one time and all this stuff's going in the air, and we already have been over how toxic the chemicals in Overton are. So I would like to see it done all at one time. I would like to see housing. What I was against with Habitat was the number of one-bedroom houses, where, according to Michigan law, a woman or a man cannot have a child and live there. So once they have a baby, they have to move. So where do they move to that's affordable in South Haven? So we just have the same problem over again. I am for building two-story houses that match the neighborhood, that are in the $200,000 to $300,000 range. And this can be done with a trust. It was done in Grand Rapids. I beg to differ with Mr. Kilpatrick. At one of the meetings, he said it's up to the city to set those limits. I don't believe that's true. I believe it's, the trust is set up by legal means, and I'm not sure what those are, but that's what I've read. I'm also against an income level such as Habitat had. The teachers, the first responders, the people that work in restaurants, they couldn't live there. They made too much money. And anyone, I talked to a woman in Walmart that worked 2 jobs, and I heard the conversation about how, she couldn't live at any of the ones here and had to be out of town because she had 2 jobs and she made some ridiculous thing like $20 more. I think we need some place where people can raise families and live affordably so that they don't have to move once they have a child, or they want to raise a family, or they can't stay here for the whole time the child is in school. I was against Habitat because I think that they're a shoddy operation. You can look that up. And their building might be great, but their management, I hate to use the term, but it was like a dump and run. The management scores that they got, and I believe whatever company we go with for that property needs to be responsible, and they need to follow through on the management of it. What I am for on the Overton is safety. I think that the cleanup should be done, and it should be clean, and a place where people want to live. I'm for a workplace income where, or it's called workforce housing. I'm very much for that so that people can, as I already mentioned. I do also am very for a reputable company that I hope we will choose to get that. I would prefer personally no basements, because that would kind of solve the problem. If you didn't do too much digging, that might help. I'd like to see green space. I'd like to see enough parking, but those are like tos. That's not something that I feel is mandatory in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, was there anybody else? Going once, going twice. Just made it. Good evening.
Hello, I'm Annie Brown, 114 Michigan Avenue, and I'm running for mayor of South Haven. First of all, I just want to thank everyone who made our 4th of July fabulous. And I'm wearing my t-shirt tonight. A month ago, I said to my husband, I think I should change my campaign motto to, what about us? I mean, what about the people who live here year-round, keep the lights on in February, and keep our economy going after the tourists leave? It means, what about our servers, our clerks, our first responders, and the workers in our Department of Public Works? They worked tirelessly over the holiday and missed out on family events, barbecues, and time with their families. They did this because, like all of us, they love our community. They served every guest who came to South Haven to celebrate. Not a plate went uncooked. Not a gas station pump went unattended. And I want to thank Chief Natalie Thompson and her staff for keeping all of our residents and visitors safe. And thank you to our city workers who probably pulled an all-nighter cleaning up our beaches, parks, and downtown. After thousands of people came to watch our fantastic, beautiful fireworks and then left, in just a few hours, our town was immaculate. That says so much about our city workers and the pride they take in our city. We are grateful for our city workers' dedication and hard work. As our next mayor, I will make sure I speak up for our police and our city workers and those people who make South Haven the amazing town it is. Those are the people who are the rest of us. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Appreciate it. Good evening.
Hi, I'm Elaine Herbert, 404 North Shore Drive. Your absentee ballots are out. The primary's coming up, and you have three choices for mayor. Some guy who developed Dunkley for himself and his developer friends who, I don't even know if he remembers that he was mayor, but his signs show up on STR properties all over town. No worries, everybody. Those property owners invest from where they live and they don't vote here. So no worries. That guy's not a viable choice. Joe Reeser, who sits up there, goes to meeting after meeting, year after year, attends his Ward 1 meetings, meeting after meeting, year after year, and other residents' events, boldly representing and advocating the issue that residents have been writing and speaking for and needing for 8 years. Thank you, Joe. He's the guy, but he has too much integrity to be all over social media, and he doesn't campaign from that dais. So I'll do it for him. And oh, Annie Brown. I got to say, Annie, there she is, front and center right now, of course. She's for world peace. She's for world peace, and she's a friend to many. I get it. She shook your grieving hand and mine at the funeral home for decades. And through her 2 failed regional state campaigns, when Annie lost her hometown South Haven vote, it's because we all asked her to recognize and take a stand on our critical hometown issues. And she didn't. That's why she lost. She didn't take a stand. Annie Brown did not have an opinion when residents said, "Hey, Annie Brown, what about us?" And Annie still doesn't have that opinion. What brought me here tonight is that in yesterday's
I'm going to
4th
ask you to keep this, I'm not going to have you make personal attack. Keep it.
What brought me here tonight is that in yesterday's 4th of July parade, Annie Brown's T-shirts read, "What about us?" And wait, what? Hey, Annie, that's what we said. We thought you didn't hear us, and now it's your campaign slogan. It's a political campaign, Mr. Mayor. It's personal. Annie Brown was a comforter of grieving people. She's a campaigner. She's not a leader. She's not a legit problem solver. And now she says, "What about us?" But it's really, what about Annie?
All right.
It's a campaign.
You're not allowed to sit up here and make personal
All right.
attacks. I'm going to
Well,
end
then
this
I'll
right
say-
now. You have a choice. Change your topic or sit down.
I'm here to say that Joe Reeser lives here, despite social media BS, and he shovels his snow. It's a very serious issue that's been brought up by someone whose name can no longer be mentioned here, and who hasn't served on a city board or commission in a decade or so, and who hasn't shown up with a valid opinion at city council meetings in decades and decades. So what about us? That's a good question. I say you vote for Joe Reeser, who has served, serves now, and will serve. Vote the slate. Reeser for mayor, Vanden Bosch and Wilkins for neighborhoods in Ward 1 and 2, reclaiming my time in case it's running out, and Hosley for transparency at City Hall, the ability to talk here about the things we desire to talk about. The rule of zoning ordinance and enforcement of the ordinance in Ward 3. This is it. Vote like South Haven depends on it. Neighborhoods need neighbors. What about us? Indeed. Thank you for your time.
Anybody else?
Not tired. Joe Wilkins, 8011 Indiana Street. Couple of things real quick. Bill Hunter, I would ask Bill to maybe do the same research that he did when he put a stop sign on Elkinbird and Humphrey, less than 50 feet away from the stop sign on Elkinbird, because they're drag racing from Elworth. Councilman Reeser cut the distance shorter. It's actually Elworth all the way down, I think, Monroe, South Haven. We were sitting there under the pavilion, and I was just hoping an elderly lady didn't pull out or anybody pull out, because this car would have plowed. It definitely would have been a fatality. And we see it all the time. So now we have this little stop from Elkinbird to, from Humphrey to Elkinbird, right in front of Elkinbird Park. But the real problem is on the other side on Indiana Street. So whatever research you did to put that stop sign there, I'm suggesting that you do the same research for Indiana. I want to thank Kate for responding quickly for some issues that we had. You know, a lot of times we may criticize folks, but we should also give them kudos when they doing good things as well. So I want to thank Kate as well for doing that, and also the chief of police for her staff and making it safe. I can't sit outside anymore though, because these are not fireworks. These are pieces of bombs, I guess, what you call them. They're loud. They're loud. There's nothing fun about there. There's no sparkles or nothing like that. So I don't know how they got into the system where we just allow it to happen, but these are sticks of dynamite, and my ears can't take it anymore. So I don't know if the city will ever have an ordinance against that, but some of this stuff, I'm just waiting to hear a report of somebody losing a hand or something. These things are getting way too loud, and they're doing it way too late in the evening. And so we might want to take a look at that, Kate, if we can do anything about it. Again, I stand here to, and I will do it until August 8th and then November, to encourage the residents to do their due diligence before they go in there and render that vote. Don't get persuaded by signs. I saw signs at houses that aren't even fully finished yet. They're still in construction mode. I see signs on the lot. It's funny. I read a book called Social Justice Jesus. I'm convinced I don't like politics. People are mean, nasty. They say mean things. I don't like it. I don't like it. I'm only here because it is needful for us to get off the sideline and help fight for our city. And I'm encouraging every resident to do their due diligence. Don't get fooled by the signs. Don't get fooled by the campaign messages. Do their due diligence. Find out how that candidate voted. Go back, look in the archives. Get on the computer. That's what I do every now and then when people try to say some things. I go back, look at the computer, get on the computer, look at the archives of the council meetings. Go back. I don't know how far they go back, but go back and see how they voted. If they were on council, see how they voted. If they weren't on council, go back and see if they came out here to help support their residents when they faced issues like the ones that we have now. And so I'm encouraging, don't get fooled by the rhetoric. Check your candidate out. If they served on the council, check to see how they voted against for the concerns that your neighborhood faced. If they weren't on council, again, how many times they show up to fight for major issues that we're facing? All those things are important before you start sticking signs out and voting for candidates. That's my spiel. I got about 39 seconds, 38, and I want to use every one of them tonight. Is that okay?
Of course.
I like all of you. I pray for Scott and his mother. I just want us to tone it down, do what's best for this city, and let the best person, the best gal win. Okay? And we'll move on after that. Thank you.
Amen. Have a good night. Anybody else?
Dan Agnello, 964 Everett Parkway. I like what Mr. Bishop had just had to say. People do not understand how bad STRs are. You know, I come up with numbers, and I don't know, I think you people just think, oh, Agnello's full, you know what? Or either that or the council or planning commission is naive. We have at least 1,100 STRs, and if you really want to look into it, it's probably 1,500. There are 700 permitted, and many of those do not show the permits in the windows. Some of you have gotten some of my emails. I ride around my bike, I go down one block, and I count 3 or 4 of them that are renting, and there's no permit in the window, and some of them don't have permits. There was one on, I think it was Maple, that had an expired permit, and there's a sign right in front, call this number to rent, okay? There's at least 200 personal STRs. So the fact that you have a quota for your business STRs is useless. It's absolutely useless because anybody can get a personal STR. Just like we mentioned on the house on the corner of Elkenberg and St. Joe. Their house was finished too late. They got their occupancy permit late, and she could not get a business STR permit. So she got a personal one, and she's going to rent it just as many times as if she could with the business, because we've been through this a million times. Personal STRs are impossible to enforce. There is no way. Okay, we've got this consultant that doesn't know how many times this thing has been rented. I give you an example about my neighbor. The consultant told Kelly Tunget that they rented it twice. She had to call Shores to find out, no, they actually rented it 8 times. Because I said, look, I know their family, I know some of the relatives there, but those people are renters, okay? On hold. The ordinance on hold has been made up. There's no such thing as on hold. Go look in the ordinance. If you find on hold, I'll take you out to dinner and buy you the best dinner in town. On hold is not in the ordinance, but they keep using it to let people have rentals. They say it's on hold so you can rent. Wait a minute. We had a limit of 700. All of a sudden, we got these on hold people are renting, okay? There's at least 100 or 200 people that are renting without permits. I've justified those. I've sent emails and stuff. They're not on the BSA. They're renting without permits. Nothing is being done. Once in a while, they issue a citation, but nothing is being done. Expired permits, I already talked about, on hold. Give an example, 732 Maple, I brought this up a million times. They applied for a permit on April 1st. 1 month after the exclusion on March 1st. But I get an email back from Kelly Doucette that says, oh, we can do that. Could we do that? A lot of people because it's renewals. Time out. That they lost the last time they had renewed their renewals in January of 2022, and they were applying in April the next year. It doesn't apply, but she's letting them apply, and now she just gave them a permit of June 28th, okay? The ordinances don't mean anything. Nothing is being done. I don't care what you say, you know, oh, yeah, that's great, we got our limits and stuff, we got a report, everything's hunky-dory. I challenge you, I'll go with you if you want to, walk down any street, take your lunch hour, whatever, after work. I will show you every single block almost has a STR that's not registered, or they don't show their sign, or they're renting after the expired date, okay? It's running rampant, but people just sit back and say, oh, everything's hunky-dory. And we had this workshop. We had 2 workshops. We had council meetings with people making comments, just like you do now. Was there any work done? We've had 2 or 3 or 4 council meetings between the 2 workshops. Has STRs been on the agenda in any of those meetings? No, okay? That's supposed to be our number 1 priority. Number 2 is housing, okay? Like Mr. Wilkins gave a nice talk about housing and everything. Thank you. And STRs is not on the agenda. So we're just playing games here. Oh, we're checking a box. STRs is our number 1 priority. Yeah, right. We haven't done anything. We're going to go through a 3rd cycle, again, with no reform. We're going to have a 3rd cycle, and everything's going to be fine, hunky-dory. You can issue as many personal STRs as you want, and that's just the way it's going to be. Nothing's going to happen, okay? Thank you.
Comments? Is there anybody else?
Mary Hasley, 726 North Shore Drive, as been said, and I have been saying, I am running for Ward 3 City Council person. I would like to address several different things. Hopefully I can do it fairly quickly. First, kudos to Bill and his group for the Crossroad crossing. The one by Newcomb Beach disappeared, and with a email and quick response, it was replaced, I believe, by day's end. Although it's not intended to slow down traffic, it does. And more importantly, it makes people realize that there's a crosswalk, and it makes people stop. So I would encourage anyone in Ward 1 by Elkenberg Park, if there's some way to get a crosswalk and to get that there, I would encourage it, because I have seen a positive effect on slowing down traffic, even though that's not its intended purpose. Sometimes unintended consequences are positive. Second, thank you for the update on the beach safety. Third, shout out for the fire pit subcommittee. That's tomorrow at 5 p.m. Thank you, Councilman Sleeper, for joining that and getting that back on the books after it's been in a hiatus for over 7 months. I would like to inquire about the status of reply to 2 separate inquiries from me. One for the houseboats that came in after the moratorium. I appreciate that certain circumstances can be established to allow that to go in, but I would like to know if that happened, if that was established or not. They shouldn't go in and ask for forgiveness. They were quite aware of the situation, and they should have crossed the T's and dotted the I's first. Also, I had sent, after the second workshop for STRs, a list of 4 questions, and thank you, Mayor Scott, for responding on June 24th, indicating that Kate would formulate some answers to my questions. I think that would help address many of the issues that several people have been raising consistently. I would also like to give a shout out to Chief Thompson and her officers. They're always willing to help, and I had to unfortunately call them a couple times, luckily non-emergency, but very prompt and very responsive, and I was very appreciative of that. I would just like to echo some of the concerns raised by Lisa with regard to Overton. Ironically, today I received from my Freedom of Information Act request to MISHDA, I got a copy of the rejection letter that they received, and it reinforced something that City Manager Hosier had commented, and I thank her for that. That Habitat probably didn't apply because of the environmental issues, that MISHDA had several questions that Habitat could not address. In fact, at the very beginning of the Eagle part, it says, additional information and analysis are required to satisfy the authority's environmental review requirements. And it goes down further, saying that depending on what comes from different information, a site-wide remediation approach may need to be considered. So there were a lot of pushbacks. In fact, even parking was pushed back. MISHDA said that 1.5 was more appropriate than the 1.3 that was pushed through. So it was nice to see that MISHDA was doing their job, exactly what I was told that they would do, independently review things and make sure T's are crossed and I's are dotted to make sure developments going in meet the requirements of their funding mechanism. With that having lapsed, I am looking forward to looking for workforce housing, something that we have been saying has been needed from the get-go. I remember in August of 2021, I stood before you council persons, except for Wendy, Councilman Onuki, raising the issue that our South Haven Police Department officers, our SHAEs, who are not only firefighters, but first responders. We are blessed to have such dedicated and experienced people helping us have safe community. And teachers could not live there because they made too much. So I'm sorry to see that we have 3 years lost, but I am encouraged, especially once we start getting some more environmental work done, to find a path forward and hopefully provide the community the housing we need. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Is there anybody else? Going once, going twice, I think it's about everybody. All right. City manager comments.
Thank you, Mayor. I really wanted to start off with thanking my staff for all of their really extensive hard work over this weekend. There is a lot of planning and preparations that go into this weekend, It's not just July 4th, it's with the parade, it's just July 3rd fireworks, it's all the different events that go on. As you read in my weekly update, there's a number of things. There's the Rotary Pancake Breakfast. There's a lot of things that go on during that weekend, and it takes a lot of planning. So my kudos, first off, to Chief Thompson for all of her planning. I know she starts in January, and she reaches out to many organizations to get extra officers here. As you know, we have the people who are searching containers on the beaches, and this is something we've learned that has a lot of effect on keeping the beaches manageable. But also with Shays, their number of volunteers and their paid on call and their extra work there. Also, Public Works. Behind me is our DPW director, also is our superintendent of streets, Quinton, Jake Fisher. We have a lot of people, Aaron Preeb, a lot of people who are working to make this a very safe and welcoming place to be. And without everyone working together, it really would fall apart. And I can't tell you the number of kudos and thank yous that I have received from the community because it was well done, well executed, and our town looks is beautiful because any trash that was out there was picked up. Now, of course, that again, as soon as the fireworks are done, DPW is out there getting barricades removed and, of course, cleaning up afterwards. So I want to thank all of the staff members and Shays and the police department and for all of their help with effectively doing our July 3rd fireworks as well as the July 4th parade. So I wanted to say thank you for that. And then secondly, I wanted to remind everyone that we have the Corps of Engineers in town dredging the Black River Channel, the South Haven Harbor, and the sand that is being removed from the channel is being deposited on South Beach as beach nourishment. And in contrast to the last time they did it, where they put it all the way at the end of the South Beach, they're actually placing it closer to the structure where we have more scouring. So they have resumed their operations as of after July 4th holiday, and they're back out there. They are going to be moving that sand around, and we will accommodate our visitors as best we can, as that's kind of an active construction zone. They are planning on working through the weekend, but hopefully they will be done in advance of July 10th. Now, it is never our want to do this in the middle of the season. They were anticipating being here early June, but they spent several weeks in St. Joseph due to bad weather. So that's why they're here now, but we can accommodate and we can work around. So those are my two comments. And again, my heartfelt thanks to all the city staff who worked on this weekend's festivities.
Very good. Much appreciated. And thanks to you for putting it all together. So thank you. Anybody have questions for Kate? Otherwise, it's up to us. All right, council comments. I'll start on the right. Thought about the left.
It's always the right.
To the right. Joe.
There's not much I can add to Kate's Lisa, you shouldn't leave. I want to compliment you. If you can. But first, Kate, I echo what you said. The only thing I can add is the first time I've ever walked a parade, and my wife walked with me. And what I noticed was all the city employees at every corner of the block, and I'm sure Annie saw it, they couldn't have been more helpful. They couldn't have been smiling more in 85 degrees, sweltering, humid heat, and we were all sweating, and they couldn't have been any nicer than they were looking out for the people. And it's very different when you're walking the parade, you see them there. So I want to thank you. The next day, not only did the city clean up, because I'm right across from Kids Park, they had it cleaned up, but Joan Hiddema and a few other residents were walking with bags, picking up whatever was left in the park, which was nice. The other thing, Kids Park, an hour and a half ago when I met a couple of residents, I guess 2.5 hours ago, talking about height of houses, they also brought up Kids Park, and these are people that aren't there all the time. They own a short-term rental. And they said all their neighbors talk about how nice Kids Park is, how safe it is, so that was nice. Lisa, the comments, there you are, that you said, I think I took notes as best I could. I think I agree with everything you said. Mary kept talking to me and hounding me about workforce housing versus affordable, and there is a difference. And she's right, workforce housing is what we're going for. I think it's right in the sweet spot, that 40 to 60,000 income range for the teachers, the firemen, the policemen. I think we can hit that. I talked to Ryan Kilpatrick about 3 weeks ago, and he said, and I'm paraphrasing, I don't want to misquote anyone, but he said the state is flush with workforce housing money. So maybe we'll get more fortunate and find a good company. The other thing, Dan, I know you mentioned getting something done about short-term rentals, having it on the agenda. Please know I submitted to Kate last Friday. I've rewritten it about 3 times to make it as clear as I can, but I'm hoping in the next city council that we can bring this up. I am trying effortlessly to come up with a compromise where I can't speak for city council or the mayor, but I'm trying to listen. I've talked to a couple of realtors, I've talked to a businessman. I want to find out if we can get a compromise on short-term rentals, to take the pro and the anti-short-term rentals and find a common ground where we all can coexist and be better for the residents and still have the short-term rentals there without hurting tourism. So I am very optimistic, Dan, and I'm hoping to have something talked about at City Council in the near future. That's my hope. I'm not speaking for anyone, but that is my hope. Thanks.
Thank you. George?
I'll just echo, pile on, thanks to city staff, especially Chief Thompson, for everything that the staff did over the 4th of July holiday. I had a great time. I participated in a lot of events, and it was good. Thank you.
Also, just jumping in with a thanks to everyone on city staff who worked over the weekend to help make our city look amazing and run smoothly and stay safe during the celebrations. And then I am also wondering if we could get a timeline for Overton, like what we're gonna do, just to have some idea if people are asking us what the next step is. That would be awesome. And I think that's it for me.
Sounds good.
My comment, I'll be a broken record, and thanks to the Department of Public Works and Bill Hunter and Chief Thompson, the police, Shays, the fire department. Yeah, it's always impressive that have that many people on the beach, and then that mess. But when you wake up first thing the next morning, the beach is in great shape and ready to go, and the streets look good for the parade, and so yeah, it's a Herculean effort, and we certainly appreciate it.
Great.
Just a quick thanks to Chief Thompson and her staff, and Kate and her committee, her staff. And also, I just have to say that I really, really enjoyed the fireworks. It was really, really good. I don't know who the committee is, but it was really good, and I enjoyed it. And I also want to remind Ward 1 that we are listening to you, and we value your opinions and your concerns, and we are doing our best to do what you need us to, what you're asking us to do. And those are my comments. Besides, it's super hot in here.
Yes, nice. Welcome to the heat. Well, thanks for everybody for coming. Thank you for your comments. Yeah, I mean, obviously, Kate, Griffin, you guys do a lot of the legwork to keep everything organized. Natalie, always. Bill, thank you. Our, Brandon, everybody at Shays. Our visiting police officers as well. If you had a chance to walk around, if you noticed, we had a few visiting police officers here. We were extremely secure and safe, and it was kind of fun sitting down at some of the command posts when a call would go out for, one was a missing kid who wasn't missing for about 2 seconds, and he was found by one of our police officers, and a little kerfuffle broke out, but I think anyone that came for mischief was met with a bit of a resistance that day, so I think most of us felt secure in our hometown over the weekend. So I will just say well done. Thank you to our donors that made the $40,000 show possible. To our folks that helped pull off that show, it was wonderful. So I just thank everybody for being here tonight, enjoying the 4th, being safe, and being good to your neighbors. So on that note, I'll seek a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.